Canada thought this bridge would bring two neighbors together. Instead, it became the center of a shocking decision that left many people confused and disappointed. The reason behind it was something almost no one expected, and it changed how many Canadians saw the relationship. Canada spent $4.7 billion building a bridge it did not have to build alone. It paid for the structure, the customs plazas on both sides, and the highway connections on the American side, all with Canadian money, at zero cost to American taxpayers or the state of Michigan. It handed Michigan joint ownership of a completed $4.7 billion asset with no upfront capital contribution required. Then, when the bridge was ready to open, the United States blocked it. Not because of a safety deficiency, not because of a construction problem, because of a trade dispute that had nothing to do with the bridge itself. For many Canadians, that sequence was not a diplomatic incident. It was a lesson about what the bilateral relationship has actually become. The Gordie Howe International Bridge opened its ribbon-cutting invitations on June 10, 2026. 2 days later, after U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Ambassador Pete Hoekstra objected to the planned ceremony upon learning about it from media reports rather than through official channels, the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority canceled the event. Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed at a Toronto press conference that the delay had come at the request of the United States. Canada had not acted. Canada had agreed to a request. The bridge that Canada financed, built, and handed to Michigan for free is sitting complete and unstaffed because Washington asked Canada to wait, and Canada said yes. The Guardian's February 2026 reporting captured what made Trump's initial intervention in the bridge project so disorienting to the Canadian political establishment. Trump had previously supported the Gordie Howe project during his first term. The bridge was not a Canadian unilateral initiative. It was a binational agreement signed with a Republican Michigan governor in 2012, endorsed by both governments through multiple administrations, and executed on a legal framework that both sides had committed to for 14 years. When Trump reversed his support and posted on Truth Social demanding new conditions, he was opposing something his own first-term administration had been on record supporting. The Washington Post opinion coverage in February 2026 identified the precise mechanism making the bridge dispute qualitatively different from earlier trade disputes. The United States was using a completed, legally agreed, binationally owned infrastructure project as leverage in separate trade negotiations involving tariffs, dairy, and alcohol trade disputes that had nothing to do with whether the bridge should open. Using infrastructure as a trade negotiation, CHIP converts a project whose entire value is its operational status into a hostage whose value to the holding party increases the more the other party needs it. Canada needs the bridge open. The United States has demonstrated it can delay that opening without incurring the direct cost Canada incurs from the delay. That is a leverage structure the pre-2025 bilateral relationship had never previously produced. NPR's June 28, 2026 reporting on why the new bridge is built but not open described the situation with a specificity that cuts through the diplomatic language. The bridge has all the technical approvals it needs to operate. DHS had confirmed full staffing and operational readiness on the American customs side. The Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority had confirmed construction completion. There is no outstanding technical work preventing the bridge from handling traffic. The opening requires, in NPR's framing, political clearance from the White House, something that has not been granted at an undetermined future date, with no publicly specified conditions that would trigger it. Reuters confirmed that the bridge's opening has been delayed following an American request, and that both governments had agreed to take time to resolve outstanding issues without specifying their nature. Business Insider's reporting from February 2026, when Trump first raised demands for new conditions, traced the sequence involving the Maroon family's $1 million donation to a Trump-aligned PAC, the subsequent meeting with Commerce Secretary Lutnick, and the administration's reversal of its previous position on the bridge, a sequence that Democrats in Congress have formally requested investigation into. The BBC's coverage described the bridge delay as symptomatic of a broader deterioration in Canada-U.S. relations that has extended across trade, security, and diplomatic dimensions since Trump's return to office. The annexation rhetoric, the 51st state comments, the tariffs on steel, aluminum, automobiles, and lumber, the demands for dairy access, the pressure over the liquor bans, and now a completed $4.7 billion bridge that Canada paid for sitting unopened because Washington has not authorized it. Each element individually might be managed as a bilateral irritant. Together, they describe a pattern that Canadian policymakers can no longer characterize as an anomaly. Houston Public Media's June 2026 reporting noted that the bridge's closure has become a concrete symbol of US-Canada trade tensions, with analysts observing that using a binational infrastructure project as a bargaining chip marks a departure from how the two countries have historically managed cross-border cooperation. The commercial cost of the delay accumulates daily without resolution. The Ambassador Bridge, 97 years old, 4 lanes, privately owned, continues processing all commercial truck traffic between Windsor and Detroit at $100 to $140 per crossing. The Gordie Howe 6-lane configuration with direct Interstate 75 and Highway 401 connections and commercial toll rates estimated at approximately $60 per crossing would immediately create competition that reduces crossing costs for American trucking companies, American manufacturers, and American consumers whose supply chains cross that river. A University of Windsor study projected the Gordie Howe would save commercial truckers $2.3 billion over 30 years. Those savings cannot begin accumulating until the bridge opens. The structural realization that the bridge closure crystallized for the Canadian political establishment is one Carney himself articulated as early as March 2025 when he declared that the old relationship between Canada and the United States was over. The bridge is the physical expression of that declaration's truth. Canada built a $4.7 billion structure specifically to strengthen trade between the two countries, gave Michigan half of it for free, cleared every technical and operational hurdle, and was told to wait while a separate political negotiation was concluded. That sequence cannot be reconciled with the assumption that the United States views the bilateral relationship as genuinely reciprocal. Mark Carney's government has been building alternatives since that March 2025 declaration. European trade partnerships, the Safe Defense Initiative membership, Nordic security cooperation, the KC Lissam's LNG deal with Germany, the Australian radar agreement, the $40 billion Arctic infrastructure program. None of those alternatives were necessary under the old relationship's assumptions. All of them became necessary the moment a completed, paid for, legally agreed bridge sat unopened because Washington found it useful to keep it closed. The bridge has no announced opening date. The customer review deadline of July 1st passed without resolving the conditions the United States has attached to the opening. The Morin family's Ambassador Bridge continues operating as the only commercial crossing between Windsor and Detroit, collecting tolls from American truckers who would immediately switch to Gordie Howe's lower rates if the bridge were open. Canada built the alternative. The United States is protecting the monopoly. That is the transaction the bridge closure has made visible to every Canadian watching, and it is the clearest single demonstration of what the bilateral relationship looks like when the old assumptions no longer apply.